Hi, this is Natalie Mason and Grace Litchfield, and this is our Assessment 1 devising our periodisation cycle.
A good definition of periodisation can be found in an article written by Nick Chad, An Approach to the Periodisation of Training During the In-Season for Team Sports. This appeared in the UK Strength and Conditioning Association, or the UKSCA periodical, which was issue 18 in the summer of 2010. Chad states that periodisation is a form of structuring training to achieve performance results and involves dividing the annual training plan of the team or person into phases and individual training units.
The roots of periodisation come from the Canadian endocrinologist Hans Sayles' model, known as the General Adaptation Syndrome. He developed this three-stage theory following his experiments on rats in Canada, where he repeatedly saw reactions to different stresses resulting in the same responses. However, critics of this theory suggest stress impacts people differently. So, for example, what one person finds stressful, another person may not.
Russian physiologist Leo Matveyev and Romanian sports scientist Tudor Bompa developed the periodization model further and included the theory in training athletes in their home countries. Periodization can be broken down into different phases, blocks, or cycles in order for the person or student to peak in the technique at the right time. There are three key periods in the periodization model. Macrocycles, which are longer term, they allow for a long-term goal to be set for example, a year at school. Mesocycles, which are medium term, for example, 6 to 8 weeks or a half term at school. Each mesocycle has a specific aim that the pupil or person may want to improve, for example, strength. Microcycles are the last phase, which are a short term, for example, an individual training week for an athlete or a week at school.
The periodization phase we have devised is a mesocycle. The scheme of work is for Year 7 girls learning netball in PE and could be delivered as an intervention in schools. The 6-week block is all interlinked with improving health and reducing anxiety at its core.
Learning within PE can be seen as a non-linear process. Non-linear pedagogy is a learner-centered approach and a more holistic form of development. In the peer-reviewed research of Brendan Moy et al., Jackson and Farrow 2005 suggests that this hands-off style of teaching is favoured by girls, and so our cycle utilises a constraints-led approach. Davids et al. 2005 states that a constraints-led approach is a teaching method that is based on the principles of nonlinear pedagogy and shaped practice in different performance contexts. Through the manipulation of certain constraints, different information is presented to the learner and they are required to find solutions to the problems that they face. Carl Newell created a model called Newell's theory of constraints. It was first developed in 1986. The constraints model, which was suggested by Newell, states that motor skills arise from the interaction of three primary constraints. The literature that promotes a constraints-led approach suggests that there is a close relationship between the movement of a child and the environment which they are in. This theoretical framework is called ecological dynamics and is the fusion of dynamical systems theory and ecological psychology.
Research by Haywood and Getchell in 2009 states that the constraints that can be manipulated can be classified into three distinct categories: the individual, the environment, and the task. Manipulating any of these constraints alters the affordance landscape for the learner. Research by Gibson in 1979 describes affordances as the opportunities offered by the environment because of a result of the constraint. A nonlinear pedagogy promotes the practice of creating affordances to act upon through manipulating the constraints that allows for the learner to develop. The constraint we decided to manipulate was the environment. The teams within the game of netball would be made up of friendship groups. We felt this socio-cultural constraint would increase willingness to participate and reduce anxiety in the children that were less confident. The research of Cole and Hobbs in 1998 found that the motor skill acquisition developed by young learners is often strongly influenced by group expectations, trends, and fashions, and that participation increases if learners feel that they fit in.
The training method that would be used throughout the mesocycle that we have created would be high intensity interval training, or HIIT. This training method is a method that mixes periods of exercise alongside periods of rest, and it can be modified to suit various fitness and ability levels. So it can be adapted to suit the needs of the Year 7 girls that we have designed a netball session for. The health benefits that this training method provides include that it helps the students to lose weight in a quicker time frame than with other training methods, meaning it is a good choice for the 6-week mesocycle that we have designed. HIIT training also builds up multiple muscle groups, as well as strengthens and improves oxygen and blood flow due to a strengthened circulatory system. The individual session would focus on plyometrics and working on increasing power for the max vertical jump of the learners, which is useful in netball for movements such as a deflection or an interception of the ball. A study by Malin et al. In 2014 found that plyometrics increase muscle strength in adolescents, allowing the individual to run faster, jump higher, and also change direction at a faster pace. These will all assist in improving the netball performance overall. Plyometrics also improves cardiovascular health. Research by Kenny and Seals in 1993 reported that after a plyometric session, blood pressure levels are reduced for minutes or even hours in relation to pre-exercise levels. This phenomenon is called or referred to as post-exercise hypotension.
The adaptations that would occur in the energy system would be that of the ATP-PC system. By engaging in explosive jumps, so for example, jumping as high as possible for 2 or 3, followed by a period of rest. After 2 or 3, you'll find the following jumps will not be as high, and this is because the ATP-PC is depleted. And if you continue training, then it'll become endurance training, and that's counterproductive. When training the ATP-PC system, the body becomes better at storing phosphocreatine and carbohydrate in the muscles, which can then be used for immediate generation of ATP for energy without oxygen. Better storage equals an improved ability of the ATP-PC system to work at higher intensities. The activity of the enzymes that break down phosphocreatine, so creatine kinase, synthesize and break down ATP, ATPase, and help break down glucose to form lactate are increased. The improved breakdown of phosphocreatine especially helps extend the capacity of the ATP-PC energy system, which helps during strength, power, or speed performances.
The nutrition sessions within our cycle would focus on obesity and the importance of a balanced diet. The Change for Life publication states that 1/3 of Year 6 children are either overweight or obese. And as these children make their way into Year 7 and start secondary school, it's imperative that they are given the correct information and tools to make good food choices, especially as independence increases. Overweight or obese children are more likely to become overweight adults and are more at risk of health issues such as type 2 diabetes, some cancers, and even heart disease. A key component of the session would include learning about food labels, the traffic light system of nutrition, and the recommended dietary requirements for their age and maturation level.
A follow-up from this would look at macro and micronutrients with an emphasis on iron intake. Public Health England state that up until puberty age, the iron recommendations for both boys and girls are the same. The onset of a girl's menstrual cycle sees a significant rise in the iron required, and they also suggest that the figures they recommend may be insufficient if menstrual losses are high and iron supplements may be required. Research by Higgins in 2015 claims that 29% of non-pregnant girls and women worldwide are affected by anemia. Work by Zigai 2009 suggests that girls entering maturation had increased anxiety due to menstruation signs, which include things like irritability, low back pain, skin outbreaks, fatigue, social isolation, nausea and vomiting, abdominal pain, so what we know as period cramps, and general weakness occurring before, during, and after menstruation. Um, Work by Houston et al. In 2006 describes these signs that they not only affect the quality of a girl's life, but also they're the main reason that teenagers are absent from school and have reduced participation in lessons like PE. We did, however, find a study by Balaha in 2005, and they reported that although a high proportion of students do have acute premenstruation signs, there's no significant association between these signs and stress, anxiety, and depression.
Linking to this theory of increased anxiety during maturation, we as a pair also decided to include a manipulation of an individual constraint, whereby the teacher and any TAs would join in with the class. This functional constraint refers to the behavioural aspect of the child, such as motivation, fear, and possibly even focus. Hayward and Getchell, who in 2009 suggest that children will interact more in PE lessons if they do not feel they are being observed and or evaluated by the teacher or any staff members that happen to be present in the lesson at the time. Social anxiety disorder is a condition characterized by a marked and persistent fear of being scrutinized by others. Age of onset data point to adolescence as a developmentally sensitive period for the emergence of the condition, at a time when the peer group becomes increasingly important. Larson and Richard 1991 suggest that adolescence is a time when people are moving from a unique reliance on their family unit and are learning how to interact with peers in a way that will set them up for the rest of their life. They become increasingly autonomous from their parents and reliant instead upon their peer group in and around school. A review by Silverman et al. 1995 states that this is especially true for young girls, and this is backed up by Van Wersch et al. In 1992, who also concluded that adolescent girls avoid PE and sport due to concerns about their ability and competence.
Our periodization cycle, and to be fair, periodization in general, is justified by the peer-reviewed research carried out by Fleck in 1999. They state that a consensus has largely been reached among researchers as well as practitioners of periodization, and they all agree that periodized training offers a superior level of development within strength, power, body composition, and other important performance variables. This is our reference list, and these are all the books, websites, journal articles, and peer-reviewed research articles that we used within this presentation. Thank you.